faced in imparting IKS, then after that we'll be able to visualize and create new possible solution to address these particular challenges. So these are the 4 objectives. So let's begin with the session. So Nelson Mandela had given a very profound quote, and this is usually when I talk about quality of education, I highlight this particular quote, because if you want to create a chaotic society, or if you want to destroy any nation, of course, the only thing that comes in our mind is just the use of all different weaponaries, use of atomic bombs, and use of long-range missiles, and etc. But what he visualized is that, and his vision was that if you lower the quality of education, all you have to do is just wait for 10, 20 years and see the chaos that will be created in the whole society. So the whole need of how education has such a profound role to play in the peace propagation, or you can say in the maintaining the peaceful environment in a country. So this is where education becomes an important facet, and I think this is the only component that can really help us out. Even when we talk about Indian knowledge system, this is the only weapon that we have in our hand that will be easily integrated and that will easily bring about a change in the society. Then about the recommendation made by NEPs, I think Professor Sajid Jamal Saab has already given the brief overview of NEP 2020. So I would just like to highlight here the 2 important recommendations, which will be touched later on in my presentation, and you can see the reflection of this. The first is the importance laid by NEP 2020 regarding the mother tongue, the medium of instruction. And we do find, like, especially because we are the teacher educators, we are training the prospective teacher, and how prospective teachers, when they face, because they are basically the medium, we train them and they are in the field and they interact with the students at the school level. So they tell us the kind of problems they have regarding the medium instructions and how students are not able to comprehend this whole the content matter regarding that particular discipline. The only obstructing thing is the way they are communicating the content matter in each language. Then the second recommendation is regarding the knowledge of India, the knowledge from ancient India and its contribution to modern India. If you have read the NEP document, these are the references given, and you can refer to it in detail. So a good education system should make everyone familiar regarding their culture and heritage. Culture actually enriches you. It adds value, it adds flavor to our life. And it's better to have a culture than to have no culture at all. I think being an Indian, I think we can easily sense this, that if we don't have any culture, how would we survive? I mean, what will be our traditions? What we will celebrate? Even the grieving process, even the funerals that we attend to, they do have a set of culture that we follow. So culture is intricately linked with our life. So I don't think so. As an Indians, we can ever visualize leading a life without having a culture. Then, interestingly, I think you must have heard about Lord Macaulay and the whole philosophy of Macaulay. And he said that the new history of India needs to be fabricated. And he said that it needs to, the fabrication should ensure that the present and future generation of mentally colonized people would believe in the inferiority of the ancient knowledge and superiority of Western modern knowledge, right? And this is exactly what we're seeing, because we are finding that our ancient knowledge is inferior and the Western knowledge is something that we put at a higher pedestal. And these are the extract that I gathered from the Macaulay's Minutes on Education, which was published in 1835. You can find it in any book. And just to bring your attention to the highlighted part, see what he talked about is, see the mindset behind the architect of this educationist. He said that he placed such huge emphasis on the European education. He talked about the superiority of the Europeans, which becomes absolutely immeasurable. You cannot even measure how superior the European knowledge is. And how demeaning he found that the books that were written in Sanskrit language, which was less valuable than any other books that were used at that time in the preparatory school movement. So further, he added that we must at present do our best to form a class who may be interpreter between us and the millions and billions of people are living at that time, whom we can govern, a class of persons, Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinion, in morals, and intellect. So you see, this is under quote, says exactly what he said. And if you find this, the kind of the gist that we can take up from these minutes are that he's wanted those the Indians to not to speculate, not to think about, and not to question anybody. Just follow blindly what is being said. You should remember, but to not comprehend. And this is the whole idea of rote memorization that is still followed in us at our school level. So there was no scope or no room for access for intellectual development to take place. So they have left, but the system is still being followed. And it is a very pathetic situation. If you look at the reality of education system, we do find that we are still trapped in the colonized mindset. And it's almost like we are still hanging from the branches of an uprooted tree. And the whole idea, if you look at the youth, the whole idea of when we talk about traditional knowledge, now it is being restricted to what is being known as ethnic. Now, this is a very vogue term. Even we see the young people talking about, for occasionally, if they want some change in their lifestyle, they will say, okay, let's have a party. The theme would be ethnic theme. So that means that particular they have to wear some traditional dress, and that to restrict it to some kind of dress. Even a fooding habit is restricted to ethnic food. And they, if they, you can listen to the conversation when they discuss among themselves, or you can look at their blog and in their social media also when they talk about, oh, I visited this wedding, they had ethnic food, or they had ethnic, they wore ethnic dresses. And somewhere or the other, now they are switching to what is known as fusion. Now, what they want is either they could be ashamed of the tradition, I don't know. That is for you to formulate your ideas. They want the tradition and they want the Western, the so-called their food and eating habit, and they just want to fuse it together. And this is what they call fusion. And they so gladly now it's a trend, it's a fashion that you're having fusion food or fusion kind of dress. And so the whole you can find, so it boils down to the question that it also arose in my mind, and it might be also arising in your minds also, that why does it become so easy for us to challenge traditional knowledge? Why do we just negate it, overlook it when it comes to traditional knowledge? But we dare to challenge our Western knowledge. We dare to challenge the source where the knowledge is coming from, if it is from a Western source. So it's like as if everybody has a license to challenge the traditional knowledge. So why is now coming to, what is the importance? Now, having said that, laying the background regarding the culture and the traditions and the ethnicity, if we look at IKS, see, IKS is not something new. And we cannot deny the fact that all the challenges that have been faced in our society, in our government, business, education sector, be it any sector, they are as old as you can find mountains and rivers and rocks, or in short, as old as the life of the ever since the civilization took place. So whatever challenges were at that moment, so is it not true that the intellectual power of our ancestors, which had that intellectual power at that time, did they not solve the problems? Of course they did. So our ancestors were also blessed with that intellect to solve those immediate problems. So it runs in our blood, it is embossed in our DNA. So no doubt, whatever it is, if you say that our ancestors are less abled, so you should not be surprised enough that 20 years down the line or 30 years down the line, even the younger generation will say that our ancestors were less able. So you cannot challenge. We are also faced with set of problems, but if we use our ancient knowledge, so we can, with the help of that particular the background, the traditional knowledge, we can come with innovative solutions. So knowledge needs to be continuity. It cannot be broken or compartmentalization into different eras or different generation wise. It has to have the continuity so it can get evolved. It can function effectively. And to do that, we have to actually cross the path that we have already traveled. Crossing the same path, going through the same history, going through the same traditions, we will come to know about how they speculated the problem, how they visualized it, and how they attended to the problem and they solved it. And with this thing, I think we will be able to free our youth from the shackles of the colonized mindset. So they won't no longer have the license to, criticize the traditional knowledge and just, and just keep quiet regarding what the Western knowledge is providing them, and they're not daring to challenge the Western knowledge. Here, I'm not criticizing the Western knowledge. What I'm trying to tell you here is how we
Smartphone connected.
how we are. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, audible. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the last thing that how we. Yes, thank you. So we have to free our youth from the shackles of colonized mindset. Now, Indian knowledge system, you'll be surprised to know that even Albert Einstein, he talked about how much we owe to ancient Indians. It taught us how to count, and without which most modern scientific discoveries would have been completely impossible. And we will look in a short while further along my presentation, especially the mathematics part, the surgery part, or the medicine part. You can see how much we have contributed in those fields. And if you look at the estimation date of the civilization, it goes way back to 5,000 to 8,000 years. So therefore, it's not surprising that we have a rich repository of knowledge accumulated over such a long period of time in the Indian subcontinent, and which is manifested in terms of our traditions and practices. Further, United Nations has also defined traditional knowledge system as TKS, and what they have talked about traditional knowledge system as local knowledge, which is a record of human achievement in comprehending the complexity of life and survival. And our ancestors have done that. They have survived the most complex situation that was present at that time. And likewise, at present, also we are facing different complex situations. So that will help us, it will aid us in recording what the human achievements were and how to use in the present scenario. And traditional knowledge, which may be technical, social, organizational, or cultural, was obtained as a part of great human experiment of survival and development. We have survived that. We have survived those times of unfriendly environment, and we have the capacity to survive now and in future. So, if we only and only if we just travel the same path and get hold of this Indian knowledge system. Then later on, I also read a paper in which Laura Needed also talked about traditional knowledge system. And here I would like to also pinpoint what they talked and what she talked about the TKS as how it opens up people's mind to other way of looking and questioning, to change knowledge attitudes, those stringent knowledge attitudes that we have, and reframe the organization of science to formulate a way of thinking globally about tradition. So we have a lot of people who have talked about local knowledge and how traditional knowledge system is so vital for us, and it's paving way for us, and it is actually aiding us in solving our the contemporary problems also. Now, if we let's break Indian knowledge system into three parts. Now, Indian, it's not the geographical condition that we have at present, the Indian, the political condition of India at present, but Indian at that time means the indigenous source of knowledge which was generated by the Indian society. So ever since the civilization took place, we can find right from the Indus civilization. So it includes all the area right from the Pakistan, Afghanistan, and if you go a bit far in the east, it also includes a part of Burma, and of course the entire India is also there. So we are not restricted to that particular India that we know now. So our Indian knowledge will encompass the entire Indian indigenous source of knowledge which was present at ancient times. So knowledge, as you know, it emanates from the wisdom and insight arising out of deep experience, observation, you're experimenting, analyzing, which is further strengthened or augmented by validating and by improving. And knowledge, some knowledge is documented, it could be orally transmitted, or which is practiced as tradition. So knowledge can be in any area. And system is something, it's a way, it's methodology. of classification of schemes to assess the available corpus of knowledge. And through system, we understand the rules and the interconnection between them. So everything has to follow a system, has to follow some kind of steps. It's not something very haphazard. And we have to basically join the dots. And through the joining the dots, we will understand the rules and the interconnection between different corpus of knowledge. So let's have a look at IKS in different disciplines. So now coming to mathematics. Mathematics, the oldest known mathematics text is existence are the Sulpa Sutras of Bodhyana, Apastamba, and Katyayana, which forms a part of the literature of the Sutra period of the later Vedic age. So Sulpa Sutra, basically Sulpa meaning bread. So how at that time, the civilization, they designed and they constructed various elegant Vedic fire altars, and which gave a rich symbolic significance also, and had to be constructed with accuracy, with perfect accuracy, which is a thread and a ball, even when they had to draw a circle, or they had to draw a semicircle, or when they had to construct the temples also. So the kind of technology at that time, what they had, it's not the IT culture here that we have right now. The very basic, the technology of thread and stone and how they constructed beautiful architecture at that time with a brick altar. And there's a striking example of construction depicting a falcon in flight with curved wings, a chariot wheel complete with spokes, or a tortoise with extended head and legs. And if you look at the classical period of Indian mathematics, we go way back to 400 CE to 1200 Common Era, and many important contributors, of mathematics, and we must have come across some way or the other. But this is, the thing that I want to highlight is how much do our youth know regarding them. How much Aryabhatta, Brahmagupta, Bhaskarattu, Varaha Mihira, how much have they contributed, and what is their story? So this is, as in a form of a story, we have to acquaint ourselves how much they have contributed. Don't go to the technicalities. Don't make it difficult for us and for them to understand and comprehend. So in order for them to be motivated toward IKS, so this is where I'll be further in my lecture, I'll be giving you what the role of a teacher can be. So in this also we can find the rope geometry. You can see the falcon, how in perfect accuracy they have constructed the falcon with the different shapes geometry. Because geometry is another area we find that India gave a huge contribution in this area. And if you look at the priceless gift, the wisdom of pearls given by India, we have the decimal system, we have the idea of place value, which has been very implicit in the ancient Sanskrit terminology. And the best part was Indian enough to handle large numbers, and that is where it all triggered the creation of the decimal system. And the whole idea of Shunya, which was translated into Arabic as Cipher, which was later introduced in Germany in the 13th century as Cifra, from which we have the word cipher. So if you get the opportunity, do refer to Datta 2002. He's written a very good article regarding mathematics and how the mathematics is derived from our ancient Indian knowledge, and has connected the dots very beautifully. Has connected the dots. Then, other than that, we can find the seminal contribution of how much we have contributed in the area of trigonometry, algebra, arithmetic, and negative numbers among other areas. And here we also have a figure from the encyclopedia in which we find the evolution of Hindu-Arabic numeral system, right from the Brahmi to right from the 1st century to 16th century. And this is the present numericals that we know, the present shape that we are studying right now, that is 1 to 0. Another interesting thing is the Sanskrit word for half god, Ardhajya. So Jia, which was later transferred, you can say it was, because you have to understand, in ancient time, traders used to come. So the traders, when they exchange those words, so those words somehow got distorted, or they stuck to their meaning also. So Jia got transferred to J in Arab countries, and J is basically pocket. It refers to heart, to bosom, fold, bay, or basically curve. So that curve, and later when it got translated into Latin, the word got lost, but the essence was intact. So that curve was later in Latin, it was known as sinus. So that shape got transferred into sinus, and that sinus was soon in English version be known as sin. So your Aryabhata's Cotegia became cosine, which is widely been used in trigonometry and used in mathematics. Then here, this is an image that I got from one of the Datta paper, in which the Kachori has talked about how Hindus solve the problems of interest and discount and so on. What I'd like to draw your attention is that it may here be added that chess, the profoundest of all games, had its origin in India. So a game like chess, it's all about the strategies and everything that we plan out, and that had its origin in India. Now, that's all about mathematics. Now, coming to medicines. Now, India has one of the world's oldest medical system. And you all are very familiar with this word. It is known as the Ayurvedic medicine, Ayurveda. Ayur coming from the Sanskrit word life, Veda meaning science or knowledge. So thus Ayurveda is the science of life. And if you look at the compilation of the knowledge in the Vedas, we find from the four eminent compilation of the Vedas, the Yajur, the Great Sam, and Atharva Veda, we do find how they have talked about different plants having the medicinal value. Some in Rig Veda we have around 67 plants. In Atharva and Yajur Veda we have 293 to 81 medicinal plants which are useful plants. And it is really surprising that our ancient knowledge has no doubt provided this kind of a background regarding this. But still, if you look at the latest research that has been done, we are still exploring the different plants in Amazon forest or in any tropical forest, and we're still finding and devising different medicines from these extracts. So it's almost like I read in a paper that we have, if you look at the entire forest in the world, we have only explored 1 to 2%. There is such rich reservoir of medical benefits or medical useful plants there. So the practice of Ayurveda is based upon the knowledge gained from these Vedas. So what is the doctrine principle behind Ayurveda? So Ayurveda believes that the entire universe is composed of 5 elements. So we have the Vayu, air, Jala, water, Akash, space, Prithvi, earth, and Teja, fire. And these all 5 elements, they form the Pancha Mahabhuta in Ayurveda. And we have the 3 humors. I think some of you must be quite familiar with it: Vata dosha, Pitta dosha, and Kapha dosha. And this forms the 3 doshas. They control the entire basic physiological functioning in our body. So, and other than that, let me draw your attention to surgery. And you will be surprised to know that Susruta, he's known as the father of Indian surgery, and he has talked about different, and he has compiled different Susruta Samhita, that is collection of Susruta, and he has worked in the mainly devoted to surgery. It's not only devoted to surgery, but it also includes medicine, pathology, anatomy, midwifery, biology, ophthalmology, hygiene, and psychology. And if you look at the picture, you can see the bamboo splints, how the bamboo splints are used for treating a fractured hand. And even in the tribal people still practice this kind of thing. The nature has taken its course and they use it for all kind of healing process and so on. And the surgical instruments, this is the image of surgical instrument used by Susruta at that time. And it's astonishing that all the surgical instruments, they used iron and carbon alloy. And metallurgy is another area, very fascinating area. How we have excelled in during ancient time, how we have excelled in extracted minerals using this kind of a process. And even when we have to extract something like zinc, the whole homemade distillation process and at an accurate temperature between 500 to 600 degrees, how are we supposed to extract zinc? That all is given. I mean, if you just explore this area, it's vast knowledge that you find. And it's really fascinating. And I haven't touched metallurgy in my presentation, but there's another area that is really yet to be explored. Then, interestingly, cutting off nose was a natural punishment for adultery at that time. So Susruta is believed to have developed the technique of nose restoration. And Indian doctors became highly skilled in nose restoration, which is known as rhinoplasty. And now this, it is a widely practiced by plastic surgeons today, and they're lending money with this kind of nose job. And it's highly paid with highly accuracy and highly skillful work. And Indians are the one who actually contributed to this. Then coming to psychology, Manovigyana, it pertains to the science of mind or of mental states and processes, and of human and animal behavior. So broadly, these aspects are studied in the different branch of psychology and psychiatry. So if you look at the source of man's insight, you find they are twofold: exploring the wonders of the outer world, the world outward, and the state of mind inward. And even if you look into the explore Rig Veda, you will find the concept of manas. The Rig Veda, it finds different mantras which actually talks about the concept of speed of mind, method, and prayers for mental happiness, and methods to increase vega, that is intelligence. And we do, even in the teacher training college and teacher institutions, we have in our curriculum, the intelligence theory. We talk about the education psychology talks about the personality traits, and we talk about theory of forgetting, and the theory of remembering, and what are the good habits, and how can we actually help the children to inculcate those good study habits. So here are the two extracts from the Rig Veda. These are the mantras. So if you look at the first one, the mantra, it talks about how mind, it's almost like a Surya. It's like the sun, which alone travels on his celestial path with great speed. So the ancients were well aware of this particular quality of mind, how mind can reach to such extent. And it's so amazing that you cannot, I think there's no technology in this world that can actually control your thinking process, and which can actually, like just put the whole thinking process behind bars. After the moment we start to think, the moment we start to dream, it goes beyond, and exactly how the Surya travels. And there was the second Veda mantra. It mentions the way to increase the concentrations, develop good habits, such as, like getting up for studies and performing good activities such as dana or charity. And any person who controls his mind from wandering and engages in good activities will become mentally sharp. So this is something very useful for our children, for the students also. So we can inculcate this kind of a thing, and the prayer of the Delta Usha thus increases the mental faculties and generate noble thoughts. And I guess it's all about thought. Because when I teach about peace education, this is I tell my students, in this very same mind, the mind that is thinking about destruction, the mind that is having the very vague idea about destruction, about conflict, it is in the very same mind that we have to construct. So it's all about your mental faculties and how you generate mental thoughts. Then coming to personality traits in human beings, which are influenced by three gunas. The sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamo, ignorance. And this has been explicitly described in the Rig Veda, and so much so that even the psychopathology understood the three gunas in the Ayurveda system of medicines. The human temperament, behavior, emotions, and actions are influenced by the dominance of one of these three gunas at any point of time. And accordingly, the human beings have been categorized. Then, of course, yoga. Yoga is something we are so familiar with, and we are talking about it. It's like everybody is now practicing, and the whole idea behind yoga. And surprisingly, you will be so surprised to know that in places abroad, they have used the whole concept of yoga, the therapies, the diagnosis, and how to obtain tranquility and improve health. Minus the religious part, they are performing the exact meditative exercises. They have rewrapped it, and they have talked about meditation. And they're practicing it. They're practicing in the gym. They have different spas. They have different rehabilitation centers, which are practicing this kind of a technique, which is basically via patent. And speaking of patent, it will be another interesting fact. Let me tell you, US has patent neem as having the patent. It having as pesticides, And name was basically originated in India, the whole concept, how we use name. But like I said, if you don't use our ancient knowledge, if you don't know about the knowledge, we're not connected to it, somebody else will take the credit. And that's what the US did. And the next US patent was related to powdered turmeric, which has a very great healing power, but it was the SIR India which challenged it, and they had to revoke that patent. So my point is that these are the things that we're already doing blessed. So if you look at this, the whole, I think we'll be having a separate session on yoga. So the asanas, the different postures of yoga, which are applied in various clinical and non-clinical conditions for curing various physical and emotional conditions. So you can see that on the side, on your left side, how the vata, pitta, and kapha, the different combinations of the four three dosha state you can see. And in the middle, we have the 8 steps of yoga, which actually talks about how to attain a complete cessation of activities and to indulge in unconditional bliss. So it starts from focusing the mind to breath, to rules, to yamas, to asana, to withdrawing the senses, to jhana, and ultimately to samadhi, that is unconditional bliss. And we are basically having a state of oneness. So these are the 8 steps that we follow. Then we of course have the Sankhya philosophy, which talks about, it's a dualistic philosophy, talks about Purusha and Prakriti, about spirit, the higher self, and talk about the Prakriti, the energy, the matter, and it is all derived from Satta, Rajas, and Tamas, and how the different sense faculties which are involved, the organic and the inorganic. So this is the journey. This is basically the journey of consciousness in the mind, and how we are able to differentiate between what is Purusha and what is Prakriti. And that will help us to actually detach away from us and detach from the worldly problems, and have that transcendence feeling. It will help us to have that unconditional bliss. So this is one of the theory which is you can also explore. Now coming to the importance of yoga, you'll be surprised to know there was this excavation that took place in Indus Valley archaeological site, and they had actually derived the remains of, at that time, and the saints, they were actually buried in this position, in this posture of Padmasana. And we also have the carving on the cave, like you can see in this picture, how the carving of which actually shows that posture, that the relevance of the posture, the importance laid, and the benefits of this posture. So life, Ayu, is a combination of body, senses, mind, and reincarnation soul. So Ayurveda is the most sacred science of life, beneficial to humans, both in this world and the world beyond. Now, with that background also, let me also tell you that the National Curriculum Framework for School Education, NCFSE 2023, it has talked about the Panchakosha Vikas, that is five-fold development. And it is a keystone in the Indian tradition of imagination, of development of human beings. So the child is the whole being with Panchakoshas, or the 5 sheets. So you have these layers that we have to work on, right? From the physical to the life force, to mind, intellectual, and inner self. And each layer exhibits certain distinct characteristics. So when we talk about holistic development, we take children into this account, and how to nourish them and how to nurture them, especially in these 5 areas. So much so that NCF has outlined the curricular areas, the 8 curricular areas inspired by the Panchakoshas Vikas, which actually talks about a more holistic kind of education that is supposed to be given. Now, coming to business and management, I don't know how much, if there are any participants from MBA department, they will be able to relate with this quote. A very wise person has said this: if you don't know the culture of the country, it is impossible to do marketing. You have to know the people. You have to know the culture, what they're sensitive towards, what they revere, what they respect, what they value. Then only you can sing, you can, sell your commodity. And interestingly, just with this code, another reflection, what I find is, I just would like to share with you, because the Western world knows that we have rich culture, and they cannot sell their products. If you look in this term, they cannot sell their products or they cannot do good marketing in our country because it does not cater to our culture. So what better way could it be that if they just take away that culture, or what our young youth is doing, fusion technique, or just diminish the culture, so our brands, their brands will become more, appreciated, more revered, and that will help in good marketing. And the whole globalization has done this excellent job of doing it. You see people who are doing it. Now, a child, even if he wants to buy ethnic clothes, he will probably go for a branded, a brand that is recognized somewhere else. It could be a brand from America, from UK, and they want to purchase that because for them that is good marketing, and they won't go to any local shop to buy the clothes or any other commodity. So we do have testimonies of Chinese, European, and Arab people which have talked about India being trustworthy in business. India was a hub of business, and they always adhere to their word and to the promise. And this was something that has been written in the testimony. We find them in the stories also that have been told. So, like I said, many things have been documented. Some have been passed on with oral traditions. Some are, introduced in different stories, and we have derived the um, essence out of it. Then, if you look at the 7 pillars of business, we cannot negate the fact that this has also come from our ancient knowledge system. We have the Cotelia's substance theory, and we have the Chanakya's 7 pillars of business. If you look at it, this is exactly the business model that I think the MBA students must be studying. I don't know if they have a chapter regarding this or not. So you have the king, the CEO, the director in the middle, you have the minister, the manager, the country, the business market, the fortified city at that time, that was the headquarters right now, the treasury, that's the finance, the army, the team, and the ally. We don't need business analysts. So all these 7 they form, which is known as our present organization structure. And this shows that it hasn't changed from that time. And we are still sticking to it, and we are still following this particular structure. Then when we're talking about business, so we have to also talk about ethics, because business, the very important, vital point of the business is the business ethics. And this is something that I think I've already told you how we have testimonies that Indians were so good in this ethic. And the reason is what I'm going to present right now, because we believed in the karma principle, that each and every one of us is responsible for their action, and the individual alone must pay the consequences of those actions. And this is what makes us fearful of any wrong action or wrongdoing. And in the Vedic philosophy, it identifies the 4 objectives of human life: the dharma, virtue, the artha, mani, kama, ujis, and moksha, salvation. Now, the Indian ethics of dharma, virtue, is expressed as a synthesis of intellectual understanding and self-realization, which can be achieved by adherence to the eternal dharma and prescribed by clear Vedic literature as guidance, as practical guidance in our daily life. And dharma, the value system, actually protects us if you only follow it. So the value system is superior as it drives the right object. So we know that wealth creation and accumulation is to serve that particular objective. So the principal role of wealth is to serve the needs of the society, not to be greedy and to accumulate, but the purpose should be to serve. And the whole concept of dana, charity, also comes in. So dharma generally means the teaching of Vedantic philosophy and its code of conduct and duty. It is a principle that guides a responsible life and relies more on reason than on intuitions. So the earliest beginning of ancient India's criminal and civil law can be also traced back to dharma. And we have kama, artha, moksha should also conform to the dharma to guarantee the existence of an orderly society. So if you look at this is another area in which we have rich reservoir, rich repository regarding the business ethics that we followed at that time. Now, coming to ecology and environmental science. This is another area which we have rich, and this is my area also, environmental science. I really love teaching about environmental science. Very passionate about this. So you can see that when we talk about environmental sciences, the whole idea of environment, how environment can be imposed, and if you want to use one symbol, it is the symbol of a cow. And how a cow, with all the different deities present in the cow, it is a symbol of worship, and to worship it, you will be reach that kind of moksha, salvation, reach a salvation point. And it also, and you find the hints in all the four Vedas. The Rig Veda, the Yajur, Sama, and Atharva Veda, which reveals full cognitive sense of the undesirable effect of the climate change taking place, the skewness in weather patterns that we see, water pollution, forest destruction, distortion of the ecological balance, environmental degradation, and appropriately caution against them. So we find them, and this is a very old, you can say, sculpture, way back in 7th century of an Indian, how perfectly it has been carved out, the cow and its cow. So this is a great symbol. If you want to study environmental science, if you want to study ecology, we have rich stories regarding how our ecology or our environment was preserved and how it had um, benefited us at that time, still benefiting us, and will always benefit us. So we have the whole essence of sustainable development. We can easily reflect to this. And of course, the whole eco-feminist movement, environmental movement that took place. It was the Bishnoi movement, the Chipko movement. If you look at the whole history, and if you teach with that history, with that purview, how the people, how the tribal people are so linked with the forest, and especially the women, how they link with this, it paints a beautiful picture for the students and how they should be motivated in the preserving of the environment. Then, of course, we have the book Artha Sastra, which talks about the celebrated Indian author Kautilya during the Mauryan period. And it talks about the economics of ancient India at that time. Because remember, economics, if you're talking about economics, we're also talking about utilization of resources, distribution of resources. Both aspects also included here. So how judicially or how in an intelligent way we are using the renewable resources that has been compiled there. Then also during Emperor Ashoka's time, there is a huge, we can say, documented proof that how burning of palm shark was, after harvest, was banned at that time. And this is exactly what June cultivation is, slashing bomb technique is. And we still criticize this, that how it pollutes and how it destroys the atmospheric sanctity and the atmospheric condition also, how it deteriorates. So Ashoka believed that the state had a responsibility not just to protect the welfare of the people, but also for its forest, wildlife, and environment. So much so, if you talk about having compassion for the living creatures, we have the first veterinary hospital, which was also built up at that time, and we have the Chinese traveler who has documented and who has given the written evidence of the hospital at that time, that hospital and Pataliputra. Now, another area to explore is the Indus Valley civilization, popularly known as the Harappan culture. So I think people of the history, they might be having a good background regarding this. Now, if you look at the map, just see where the Indus Valley civilization is. It is near the Indus River, and you find the Indus civilization, the Mohenjo-daro, and near the Thar desert, you will find the Dholavira. That's another civilization that took place. And imagine that civilization 5,000 years ago, archaeologists, they believed that they perceived environment as the planet itself. It's amazing. They believed in hygiene and sanitation, waste management, which tells us and it infers how they protected the environment by constructing public bathrooms, by waste disposal method. They had underground drainage systems. And there are some researchers, the archaeologists who has excavated, and they found the street. They also they found community bins. So if you look at this picture, I'm not able to put this pointer here. Yes, the pointer. Laser pointer, yes. So now you see here, this is the drainage system, which is actually covered drainage system, wide roads, and the drainage was always below the road level. And they had the huge community back. And if you have, this is the aerial view of the Harappan culture. Everything is so perfect, and they believed in the shape square and rectangle. Nothing is circular, nothing is semicircle or oval or anything or expanded over or something like that. It's only the shape at that time they believed in being square and rectangle. And perfect grid you will find even the houses that we built, the bathrooms that we laid down, and so much so that it is surprisingly that we did not find any house that could actually tell us or differentiate that yes, the king lived here or the common people lived here. Everything looked so much so the same. In fact, there was one big hall which they found as a community hall. They found that the people gathered there for common purposes, for discussing with it was a meeting place, a common meeting place, or it could be the granary where the king stored the grains. The soil of that particular area, when they excavated it, they found the proof of it. So we have the whole sewer system, the bathing platform, and how the manhole is there, the soap pit, and even there was this area, the soap pit, which actually filtered the water. The solid waste was filtered the solid waste. The water trickled down, and that solid waste was then scooped out from that particular area. So even cleaning the drains, because they were covered with slab, the modern drain that we still find today, they had been following that 5,000 years ago. You can see here the drainage system that is covered with slabs, and this is where the drain is running. And this is the Monjitaro, they excavated. Because see, whatever they have excavated, Harappan, the Monjitaro, the Dodavera, they have excavated where we found the land was vacant or there was no anthropogenic structure built on it. Because now people are residing in those areas, it's so difficult to remove those people from the area, to remove that present civilization and then excavate the buried civilization. So whatever proof that we have, because we don't have much documented proof of any civilization, but we do have the remains, and there are many hypotheses laid down by it and many predictions being made. So the drainage system that are covered, somewhere we have this kind of, it could be an individual bathroom, and it could be individual home also. Oh, and this is another area, like I talked about Dholavira. This is somewhere in the run of Kutch in Gujarat. And this is the area where we find that it has been recognized by the UNESCO as the World Heritage Site. And it has the most important features regarding water conservation system. And all is built with stone, and massive reservoir is there. So just a few weeks earlier, we celebrated Jal Shakti Abhiyan in our department. So we encourage the students there, to talk about the different conservation systems and talk about the different practices. And they made beautiful posters and would allow probably in future, I would definitely discuss and how the students they contributed in this kind of Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Then coming to water management, so Dholavira had a very different kind of water management. They had step wells. So you can see here also on the previous, these are the steps. So if the water receded, so they could walk down the step to extract the water from it. Because here the important thing was, see, this is Gujarat, run of Kutch. So it's a highly arid place. So here the whole technique was to store the water, prevent it from evaporation, and also to use it. So they had interconnected, you can see, pipes. Terracotta white pipes also, you can see it here also, terracotta pipes, which had the drains were connected to one another. So the water reservoir, wherever it was stored, it was connected somewhere else. So for example, in some part, it did rain in that part. So if it got filled, that water was then transported. And another interesting thing is that they made particular use of slope. They knew at that time how are we supposed to make the slope so that the water flows from one area which is predicted to have the rainfall to the area which is arid. And it's really astonishing at that time when they thought about slope. And look at us now. I mean, the moment we have the cities have grown organically. जहाँ जगह मिली है, street बना दी, building बना दी, highway बना दिया. Little do we think about the drainage, little do we think about the slope, and as a result, we do face urban lodging, water lodging were common here. And this is something that we learned from our ancestors, how they talked about their own water harvesting system, the storage system, the tanks, wells, and which are still being used today. So this is the another interesting fact about this bath, the new common area, which was a huge, it was a structure of considerable size, and which the modern sense we could call it as a swimming pool, but this was a public pool. So basically it could be a place, it's all a hypothesis that it could be a place for religious ceremonies, for some rituals that are being performed for pleasure bath or for cleansing oneself. And Mohenjo-daro, if you remember the map that I showed you, Mohenjo-daro was near the Indus Valley civilization. So out there, they had wells, public wells, and they had wells at home also. So it was a luxury for them because there was abundance water. But that was not in Lonavala. They did not have, so they had to preserve it. So they had to make watertight compartment and how to layer it with bitumen and natural tar beneath the floor so it doesn't soak and how to preserve it. And the astonishing part about this is the brick. The brick length is twice its width, which is still being presently used today. And like I said, they're fascinated with square and rectangle shapes. And when it was excavated at that time, during the British period also, they found these bricks. And those bricks were made from baked clay. And they were so strong bricks at that time that even Britishers at that time, when they had to build the railway stations, rails from Multan to Lahore, they used these kind of bricks to make it. So, I mean, it's really very how they their code, what kind of material they used, how they baked it, and they used it, and this has all been used here. So it is remarkable that people in Vedic time regarded nature and the environment in a holistic manner and revered each of its constituent entities by carefully preserving them. So this is an extract from it's a poem from it's a Vedic prayer. Do not harm the environment. Don't harm the water and the flora. Earth is my mother. I am my son. May the waters remain fresh. Do not harm the waters. Tranquility is to the atmosphere, to the earth, to the crops and vegetation. So it's a divine prayer that invokes divine intervention and bless and protect the environment. Now, what do we have here? So, you are familiar with the whole Hindu epic of Ramayana and how the divine Hanuman, he was the companion of Rama, and how he flew to the south of India all the way to gather Sanjeevani, a rare, live, regenerating plant in order to save the Rama's army during that war time. So, and this story shows an awareness of the healing power of plants, but also of their biological reality. Now, this whole concept, okay, some of our youth must be knowing this background, but majority of them, they don't know what is the healing power of a plant and how are we connected with the ecology, how we are connected with the tree. The tree, the whole symbol of a tree, how is our being connected with the tree, how can we, the nature and humans, how are we, complementary to one another. So they won't be able to understand. And this whole essence, just few days back, I saw this movie, Avatar, and I think most of you must have seen it. And I was surprised to know the whole essence of, and they have labeled that tree as tree of soul. And they talked about that Navi tribe and they labeled it as Navi tribe. And they said that the destruction of the tree of souls would prove devastating for that tribe and would create a cultural and religious void that would decimate the race entirely. This our youth know, and it was a blockbuster movie, and they watched it, and they are very fascinated by it. But where is the whole idea coming from? So my purpose of showing you this is what our ancient knowledge has already talked about. So this is what the West are providing this whole knowledge in a new package, and they provide it, and we are fascinated. Oh wow, they have come up with such new idea of tree of souls. But tree of souls, wait a minute, tree of souls have been already talked about, and we have our ancient knowledge which is proving this kind of thing. So having said that, now as a teacher, me and you, what can we do to impart IKS? So traditional knowledge was, and it is still stored in our dusty books. So it's time that we remove the dust from the books and we try to share it, we try to bring it alive through its application. And I think it is the teachers that we have to take the first initiative step. Then studying history to get marks in school is a lot different than studying history now as an adult. And I think you'll agree with me. The moment I studied about Indus civilization, I had studied wrong back in my school. At that time, it was only to fetch marks, honestly telling. But at this present moment, as an adult, when we revisit, relive that historical moment, And with that vast, whatever experience we have gathered along the way, ever increasing wisdom and experience, it adds new shades, new light to it. And in a very new way or new innovative way, we can share it with our young ones. And we can be fascinated by our history at this moment also, just once we listen. And mind you, if you ask your students that, for example, if I'm teaching PhD, if I ask them, or if I'm teaching medicine or any subject, and ask them to please go and refer to Falana cheese, in the way they prescript or this, they won't do that. Honestly telling, nobody will go, because as it is, we are already overburdened with this our modern education system, the books and the research work. Nobody will refer to it. But as a teacher, if we learn just one or two pieces and link it intrinsically within our lecture, we will set fire the moment. And that's the whole essence of lecture method. Just to ignite them, just to set the fire, let them explore on their own. And then they will find. And once you do that, and they will, I also be sharing one of the technique, one of the easy way that we can also initiate this kind of event. So the world needs to know what we stand for. So there is no better place than the school or the institution of higher education that can do this job in a good way or in an effective way. So unless you disseminate knowledge, how do you suppose anyone will understand it once? And it's a clear-cut question, rhetoric question. You have to learn the art of disseminating the knowledge. How are how are we supposed to motivate them, and how are we supposed to? It's like I said, what the businessmen have also said, that if you want to know the culture, if you don't know the culture, you cannot sell your product. So knowing the culture is very important. And IKS will kickstart once we introduce the topics in the IKS curriculum. So somewhere or the other, we should include the chapters, even if they're not at present at this moment. Of course, we have scope for revision of the curriculum of the syllabus. We can do that. We can take that initiative. Or if not, whatever you are studying, try to link it with the entry point. Have a story behind it. Have some culture behind it so that we can share it with our students. This is my suggestions, and I don't know how far you will agree with me. Let us collaborate with teachers in philosophy and Sanskrit department, because they are dwelling, they're already engaged, they're diving into this wealth of knowledge and they're extracting the pearl of wisdom. So once you're in collaboration with them, they can at least assist you. You can ask them, okay, madam or sir, do you know any book which is specifically related to ecology, something related to business? So they can share those ideas, they can write papers on it, and they can share that we can teach this in this class. And so we have to collaborate with them. And I think that would be a very massive step towards introducing IKS. So first stage is to impart knowledge. Then slowly but slowly, you will kick into the second stage, that is the research work. So knowledge will yield scope for the research and the projects. Projects will come rushing in, projects will be accepted, you will prepare project proposals, you will research on the different areas in IKS. So first, imparting knowledge is the first thing. I think that is where we should first start. Then if we ourselves are reluctant to accept the traditional knowledge, so how do we expect our youth to hold on to the roots? So our reluctance should not reflect in our teaching, should not reflect in our behavior. And so much so that once we are learning this about IKS, Indian knowledge system, it should slowly by slowly, it should be, the applicability should be manifested in our behavior. And it is up to us that we take these small initiative steps, small baby steps in embracing IKS, so we can change the face of the earth. Okay, now this is a picture. Now, can somebody tell me what this is?
This one flower.
Flower.
What kind of flower is it? Can you name the flower or identify the flower?
Hansingar.
Right. Absolutely right. It's her singer. It's also popularly known as the night jasmine or Parija. Do you know what it is beneficial for? Or is it beneficial or not? Is it ornamental plant or is it beneficial plant?
बेनिफिशियल ही है
beneficial. हाँ, अब तो हर चीज beneficial ही है. So we know that the benefits, like it provides now. These are the different benefits. I can treat arthritis, malaria, anti-allergy, cough, and so on. Okay. My purpose is now. Listen to this carefully. This is an anecdote that I want to share with you. A few days back, I was just sitting with my mother-in-law, and my daughter, she gathered these flowers from the lawn and she bought it and she kept it on the table. So once my mother-in-law, she saw the flowers and she said, "It really smells very nice. But it's like smells night jasmine." Right? Please mute your mic, okay? It's disturbing. So it has very good fragrance, the night jasmine. So this is one thing that we know. So my mother-in-law, she said that her grandmother, that means she must be living in the end of 20th century, I think. So she said that what they used to do is they used to extract these orange area from the flower, the sepal from the flower, and these orange these pieces they gathered and they boiled the water, and when they boiled the water, it emanates this orange color, that zardai rang, that color was there. And they used to, उस वक्त वो विंटर्स में जैसे आपको पता है रजाई का रिवाज पहले था, अब तो बहुत आर्टिफिशियली अब तो हम क्विल्ट्स यूज कर रहे हैं. सो जो रजाई का जो अस्तर होता था, द इनर लेयर ऑफ द रजाई, उसको वो डिप करते थे एंड वो सुखाते थे. सो शी सेड एक तो कलर, बिकॉज अस्तर का रंग इस वो क्रीमिश होता है, वो लाइट मटेरियल होता है, सो एक तो बहुत अच्छा कलर हो जाता था, एंड प्लस द स्मेल, इट यूज्ड टू स्टे, मतलब इट वाज लाइक काइंड ऑफ अ परमानेंट स्मेल. शी सेड कि आज के जमाने में वी हैव कंफर्ट, कोई भी हुआ कपड़ा फौरन कंफर्ट में डिप किया, सुखा दिया. Because this was the traditional knowledge that they found and they practiced it. The moment she saw, she reminisced and she talked about her grandmother, and her mother also used to do this thing. So अब ये तो बातें हो गई. My daughter was quietly listening. किस बीच में she went kitchen में, उसने पानी बॉईल किया, अपना एक handkerchief लिया, she dipped in it and then उनकी सुखाने लगी. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that intergenerational informal learning is one thing also. If you're living in a family, a joint family, we are really blessed. कितनी knowledge हमें अपने generation, just informally, किसी ने उसको बैठकर सिखाया नहीं कि हर सिंगा का क्या उसका रहता है. अगर उससे कहीं जब किताब पढ़ो, read the book regarding it, nobody will be interested at that point. But and she actually, the psychomotor domain behavior change, and she performed that experiment, and she said, yeah, she showed to her dadi that look at this color and look at the smell. So at that point, it just happened a few days back. तो फिर मैंने कहा मैं जरूर अपने presentation में बताऊंगी कि intergenerational informal learning is one way also that we can introduce that. Let us talk about our culture. Let us discuss it during the dining table. जब हम बातें करते हैं, drawing room में बैठकर बात करते हैं, हर चीज should not revolve. And children, they love to listen to these. And if you're really blessed, if you're with your grandparents, you can have this intergenerational informal learning. And another thing that I also tell my students is, once they learn from anybody, informal learning from their friends, from their grandparents, you should encourage them to maintain reflective journals in which they write down all the things down. I always encourage my daughter, write down all the अच्छी recipes जो दादी बनाती हैं, because these recipes अब तो हर चीज इतना fusion हो गया कि आप कितना भी YouTube में ढूंढेंगे, authentic आपको वो recipes नहीं मिल पाए. All have been distorted according to their taste and so on. So make a book of recipes, make a book of different anecdotes and the stories and different remedial measures that will health issues जब हो जाते हैं, that we use. तो ये एक बहुत अच्छी reflective journal होगी. We encourage our students to use this, and definitely this is one way. So your oral tradition, your customs that we followed will be documented. And these are the recommendations, especially for teacher educators like me. And I'm sure there must be some from the education departments. And what we find is that when we are training the prospective teachers, we find that our prospective teachers, they really struggle with how to introduce a topic. And how such a framing of introductory questions, they really struggle with it. And they said, ma'am, put so much कैसे सवाल पूछा जाए, how to link with the background knowledge, how much do we know कि उनको कितना पता है. So they usually struggle with it. So I have a solution for this also. अभी मैं आपको बताती हूँ. But then training the prospective teachers in integrating and delivering IKS in schools, and there was this news in Indian news, August 31st को थी क्या किस तरह Union government selected 17 centers to develop courses in IKS, and that included Indian mathematics, Vastu Shastra, another important very interesting field. मैंने पता नहीं इत्तेफाक है कि मैंने इंट्रोड्यूस नहीं करा because I was running short of time, तो मैं वास्तु शास्त्र का जरूर आपको बताती हूँ. Then पशु आयुर्वेदा and Indian psychology and yoga. So my point here is कि how would ये जो मैं आपको बताऊंगी ये आप लोगों के लिए भी beneficial है कि किस तरह how would you introduce your topic. So let us start by, and this is the extract from the NCERT book in a class 8th की किताब में से दिया है. And mind you, we have rich Indian knowledge being reserved in the NCERT book in the form of snippets. छोटे छोटे आपको blocks नजर आ जाएंगे मगर उसमें ही reserve होकर ही रह गए हो. Practical teachers भी ज्यादातर ये तो क्योंकि history है तो आपको लगता है कि हाँ पढ़ाया जाएगा मगर इसके पीछे क्या history है, that is not being discussed in the class. And because paucity of time, because they have to finish the course, तो वो जो major चीजें वो बता देती हैं, जो snippets में जो चीजें हैं वो चीजें रह जाती हैं, it's overlooked. So these are like some exercises like we have here that like did you notice the name of which languages are known or have changed over time? They have given some extract and they've asked this question. तो हम इस तरह के topics क्यों ना देते हैं लोगों को in the form of project work, in the form of like summer vacation पर जो होते हैं उनके projects, winter vacation में, उससे क्या होगा कि even parents will be involved. माँ बाप से पूछेंगे, they will explore, so we will be also in touch with like what our students are learning regarding ancient knowledge. And for example, now this is the picture of the cave drawing, Ellora cave. How the इसको बस ये पिक्चर में रिजर्व हो गया, इसके पीछे का हिस्ट्री बताइए कि केव की जो सरफेस है, सरफेस बनाने में किन किन चीजों की उनको जरूरत पड़ी, what was the mixture they used that आज तक भी these images are stuck and they are not वो अलग बात है कि some of them are broken but they are still being preserved. And they are adamantine, it's one of the mixture that is being used, and some minerals like naya and bajra lipa, it's another name for it, जिसका वो mixture बना के उसकी लेप बना के उसका surface करते हैं. That's how they start with building. तो जब भी आप कुछ दिखाए पीछे नो tell a story behind it so they will know. अब जैसे ये भी सब आप बताइए कॉपर प्लेट्स में कितना एनग्रेव्ड है, संस्कृत टाइम में लिखा हुआ. यू कैन टॉक अबाउट द हाउ सील्स आर मेड, and seals are imposed and how these relics have been preserved. The rings, रिंग भी ब्रास की बनी हुई है. फिर चोलास का जो डिफरेंट irrigation system that they have used, so you can ask them question regarding the possible sources and they can extract. The cholas को visit करेंगे, they will visit the history and look at their administration, look at how they protected the environment and the water waste management, water reservoirs. And of course construction of 10 temples. ये तो टेम्पल सबको जीके में भी हम दिखाते हैं बच्चों को, they remember the name and they write it down. How is a temple built? वही वास्तु शास्त्र, किस तरह triangulation method. If it is a curve, it has a feminine. If it is straight, masculine. And the top piece is so important in the triangulation process that जब तक आप top piece नहीं रखेंगे, your whole architecture is unstable. So the moment you mount the top piece, and how do you mount it at that time? बताइए क्या technology use है, किस तरह उन्होंने mount किया है the top piece of the temple. Then of course the hagiographies are also mentioned here. We have different extract from the different text bhakti tradition, and you can ask how does poet describe the relationship with the deity, right? And so my purpose is कि if the prospective teachers are struggling, अगर वो इन्हीं transcripts जो snippets NCT RT के textbooks में हैं, इसी के अच्छे lesson plans बन सकते हैं, because the major lesson is taught by the class teacher. And this is usually ignored because of lack of time, ज़्यादा वक्त नहीं होता है. तो अगर आप एक image पर you make a lesson plan, you will without setting fire, something that the students won't be able to explore now because you're also studying. क्योंकि जाहिर सी बात है पढ़ने के लिए पढ़ाने के लिए आपको पढ़ना भी पड़ेगा. They will be studying and they will be using just a poem, just a composition. उसको explain करते करते they will be revisiting the history. Tribal people and उनके बारे में caves की जो drawing है उसमें, and tribal people में tattoo tattoo, how to find identity, how they build, and what kind of the different tribes are present in India. We have the Toda tribe in Nilgiris and the Biker tribe of Madhya Pradesh. उनमें they use nigger seed like kalonji. उसका कैसे paste बना के bamboo stick and needle के साथ वो पूरा गोदते हैं. And how at even उनका custom tradition, just they'll be fascinated if you tell them कि वहाँ पर girls को किस तरह tattoo करते हैं at different start with age 10 arms पर करते हैं, धीरे धीरे legs पर, and once she gives the birth उनकी छाती पर and each पर वो गोदा जाता है. तो छाती गोदना, that is the whole terminology given. You can ask questions like this. You are a member of a nomadic community that shifts residents every 2 months. How does this change your life? So these are all thought-provoking. So आप खुद सोचिए कि because once I explored the textbooks, there was such rich thing, and this is only in SST. Even if we mathematics में NCERT has made an effort, वो भी सब snippets में reserved है. तो हमें चाहिए कि हम अपने prospective teachers को train करें कि इन snippet में से extract करें, and let us start with this. This is the stepping stone जहाँ से हम start कर सकते हैं IKS को introduce करना. Okay? Now, how IKS will be turning tables? You know, the birth of new courses taking place. IKS Masters उसमें आ गया, Vedic literature में आ गया, Kautilya political science and economics have been introduced in different universities. Now we are using IKS in the curriculum also. Very soon, हमारा undergraduate and PG courses में भी IKS will be introduced either as a mandatory or elective optional. That will depending on the credit system. Then scope of research. Once you have knowledge आएगी तो फिर research का भी scope बनेगा. जो scope होगा research का, फिर funding agency will be gladly be accepting your proposals and for the research papers. And imagine the job opportunities that will increase. And we would be needing the teachers with IKS background. Your CV will be enriched with this kind of thing. We would be needing Vedic scholars, Vedic counselors, and requirement of teachers in schools and universities. So if you have this kind of a background, it will be asset in your CV. Then, of course, sessions on yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, classical music, we can all provide this and arrange it for the students because, you know, in PEA has also talked about experiential learning. The IKS का भी हम experiential learning we can give by these different sessions. So we have, this I've taken the extract from the different news that was published online. So UGC credit courses on Indian knowledge system relevant should be optional for students, not burden for students. So some stakeholders are still arguing that it should be encouraged, but at an optional level. This was in April 25th. And UGC to train over 1,000 teachers to teach Indian knowledge system from degree level. And this is just last October, this month. This month, this news was published. And of course, in Times of India, in the Delhi University introduced 3 new programs, including Hindu studies. So with MA Chinese studies and diploma in cyber security law, MA Hindu studies has also been introduced. So these are the references from which I gathered in my presentations. And this is the book that I would highly recommend you. This is available on Amazon also, Introduction to Indian Knowledge System, the whole concept and the application part. I gathered this, and thanks to all the 3 authors, they have done a wonderful job that they have explained it and how they have in very simple language to explain, and they've illustrated it also. So you have most of the illustrations have also borrowed from this book. So to conclude, so your future power is not military and the currency is not gold. So we have already established that, but it is in fact knowledge that will be the future power. And this is where we have to target ourselves to achieve it. So thank you for your patience in listening, and it's open for you to share your wisdom also, to share your suggestions. So I think now over to the participants for your remarks or for your suggestions, and of course sharing your experience. That counts for me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anybody wants to
Thank you,
share
ma'am.
any?
Very nice session, ma'am.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
nice
you.
session.
आप बना लीजिए, खा लेंगे.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good
Thank you.
session.
Good night, ma'am. Thank you.
Good night. most welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I'm just waiting for Masnar Saab, the technical staff. He will be just exiting this Google Meet.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. So anybody from education
Thank you,
background,
ma'am.
from Department of Education?
No commerce.
Acha, you're from Commerce. Okay, good. So do you have any question, or do you have any experience to share regarding how you will teach commerce with the Indian knowledge system? Please, sorry, आवाज नहीं आ रही। I know it's a very odd time for the lecture to finish. I know you must be busy. Okay, thank you everyone for your participation. So I'll be
No.
exiting the
Thank you, ma'am.